Psalm 50. The mighty God, even the Lord, hath spoken, and called the earth from the rising of the sun unto the going down thereof. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God hath shined. Our God shall come, and shall not keep silence. A fire shall devour before him, and it shall be very tempestuous round about him. He shall call to the heavens from above, and to the earth, that he may judge his people. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. And the heavens shall declare his righteousness, for God is judge himself, Selah. Hear, O my people, and I will speak, O Israel. And I will testify against thee. I am God, even thy God. I will not reprove thee for thy sacrifices or thy burnt offerings, to have been continually before me. I will take no bullock out of thy house, nor he-goats out of thy folds. For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills. I know all the fowls of the mountains, and the wild beasts of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell thee, but the world is mine, and the fullness thereof. Will I eat the flesh of bulls, or drink the blood of goats? Offer unto God thanksgiving, and pay thy vows unto the Most High, and call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me. But unto the wicked God saith, What hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldst take my covenant in thy mouth? Seeing thou hatest instruction, and castest my words behind thee. When thou sawest a thief, and thou consentedst with him, and hast been partaker with adulterers, thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother. Thou slanderest thine own mother's son. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself, but I will reprove thee, and set them in order before thine eyes. Now consider this, ye that forget God, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver. Whoso offereth praise glorifieth me, and to him that ordereth his conversation aright will I show the salvation of God.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shah by Hashem, Kampadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, whom rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations. Hopefully, they got there pushing his words in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh by Hashem, Shah, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopefully the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh by Hashem, Shah. And what we're gonna get into today, something that Spirit has been building on, and it's from Khazars to small hats, and this is a lesson I've been pondering on, by a week, a little bit over a week, and the Spirit had it, where it came out today, and it ties into the madness, that we've been hearing these last few days, dealing with the IUIC, with Bishop Nate, which he's going way off the rail, You know, this is by far the worst, he's ever been as far as doctrine. And we're gonna continue to correct these things and get edification. At the end of the day, we know that you the IUIC and Nathaniel, all right, Bishop Nathaniel, they're gonna have their their devout following. Pretty much what he can say and do anything, and they cheer it on. All right, but we're gonna use these opportunities, okay, for edification. And we're gonna go into these things, because everything that we see playing out all ties in the prophecy. And see, one thing about it is we come into a time where we're gonna need more faith than ever. All right, you got a lot of jakes that are not gonna have an understanding in what they believe. You know, it's a lot of jake. It's likely that as when we come to the clutch, they're not gonna have a solid understanding of what they really believe. Okay, because pretty much, Nate, he know, there's no way that Nate believed that shit he was saying. There's no way that he believes those breakdowns. All right, we understand that, hey, he set up, to discredit, the truth, okay, and to cause confusion amongst the masses. Him being pretty much the most popular, out of the false prophets amongst, the ministry. Okay, we know, all right, he's controlled. Okay, and there's no way, like I said, that he believes that madness. So let's get into some precepts. I got some videos, I got a book, um, called Facts Are Facts. We'll go into this. All right, dealing with here we go. Yep, it's called Facts Are Facts. Let me try to get it. Hold on. There we go. All right, so that's the book, Facts Are Facts, and it's by Benjamin H. Friedman. Okay, Facts Are Facts. And like I said, we'll get into it. We got some pretty interesting things in there. There's always some bones and everything that we go into outside the Bible. But we're gonna get the meat out of it, and we just gonna deal. We're just gonna build, we're gonna edify, and get understanding on these things. It was so much said wrong, in that video done by Nate. That you can't address it in one video. You gotta break it down. So, shout out to Nate, for this week's topics. I know at least it's gonna take 3 or 4 videos to address, the madness. All right, but let's just go here. Let's get into the precepts, and then we'll get, into some history and get understanding on these things. Now, first off, let's go here to Isaiah, the 5th chapter. Okay, this is Isaiah 5:13. It said, "Therefore, my people are going into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst." And IUIC is a major example of the honorable men being famished. Now they love to call us bums. Okay, was okay, whatever. All right, but they're spiritual bums. There's no real food. Okay, there's no real spiritual nutrition coming from their camp, and it's getting worse and worse. Okay, they're malnourished in the spirit, and the multitude that follow them are dried up. Okay, with thirst, they're not being nourished in the spirit. They don't have a clue of what's going on real time right now. Okay, they teach in the name of Christ, finish. They don't teach what the MOTB is, finish. And now these breakdowns dealing with these 1,000-year periods in Revelation, okay, you cannot tell me that those people ain't confused as hell, man. They just going along to get along. All right, because that shit was confusion. Okay, absolute confusion, man. Now let's go here. All right, and it's bigger than Nate. We're gonna address the doctrine, man. You always say, y'all, everybody want to jump to the defense of Nate, but it's bigger than Nate. Okay, this is about the true doctrine going forth, man. This is the business of Yahweh Bashim Shai. All right, and you have particular men set for the defense of the gospel, man. So things going to be addressed. Okay, now this is Revelation 20:1. All right, and it says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain, all right, in his hand. Okay, and his angel is Yahweh Shai. All right, because Yahweh Shai has authority to put a nation in captivity and take nations out of captivity. Okay, what did it say in I think that's Ephesians. Okay. Mm, yep. This is on Ephesians 4:8. It said, wherefore he saith, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. Okay, because Yahweh Shai at the right hand side has the authority, okay, to put nations in captivity and take nations out of captivity. Okay, that's why we have to wait on him for our redemption. Okay, and for Esau to be put in captivity, we all have to wait on Yahweh Shai. We're subjugated to the second coming of Yahweh Shai. All right, but in this time, and this is going into what we call the dark ages. Okay, and we're going to go into these things, what these devils are doing during the dark age. We're just going to, briefly touch on these things. Some things, you're going to have to look up, on your own, watch, but we're going to, touch on some things, what was going on and what led up to them devils being the small hats today. All right, this Revelation 20:2, it says, and he laid hold upon the dragon, that old serpent. This was the pagan Roman Empire, all right, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Okay, so the Lord had events play out where Jake, okay, especially through the Eastern, because you had the Eastern Roman and Western Roman Empire. All right, when Jake began to dominate, the politics of the pagan Roman Empire, and eventually, it was transferred to Jake, under Constantine. It was fully transferred. All right, but you had Jake in there ever since, the five good emperors, which it's a pretty good documentary. It's about 19 minutes. And I'll be putting some documentaries up, I'll be putting these documentaries up, and you can go watch these things yourself. Okay, but you go into the five good emperors beginning, all right, with Nerva. Those are all Jakes, and those five emperors, were Caesars in Rome before Septimius Severus. Okay, and then eventually we have Constantine, all right, who they call Constantine the Great, which would um under his rulership, that's where you get the Holy Roman Empire, the beginning of the Byzantine Empire, okay, in which, he pretty much made Christianity the religion of Rome, and it was under, it was for political purposes. It wasn't, he wasn't sincerely like a believer, all right. He was a pagan worshiper, but for political purpose, because Christianity, had grown so much, okay, that for political purpose, he so-called, made Christianity the religion, all right, of Rome, you know, like 324, okay, like 324 AD, to the last uh, 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 emperor of that dynasty, the Byzantine dynasty. All right, his name was Constantine too, but he fell to the Ottoman Turks, which we're gonna get into all these things, you know. Trying to find a one about the five good emperors. Okay, because it was a pretty good one. See if I can find it. It usually one of the first ones to pull up. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, here goes a link here. All right, dealing with the 5 good emperors. All right, and them they were all Jakes, and you know they became emperors, and this is when Esau started being phased out of power. Okay, that old serpent Esau Edom. Okay, so let's keep reading on, and it says, and laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Okay, now you got Nate saying this is going to happen in the kingdom. Okay, he's going to be pushed into the Caucasus Mountains. No, man, all this, that's already happened. Okay, in the kingdom we're going to be at rest, and I say it's going to take a few videos to unpack that madness. Okay, because he just went crazy. All right, and it says, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. Now, Nate, all right, Bishop Nathaniel is saying this is going to happen in the kingdom. Okay, nah, man, this has already happened, and we're in that little season of him being loosed. Okay, absolutely not. This is not going to happen again. This is madness, man. Okay, now let's go to Malachi. All right, let's go to Malachi chapter 1. All right, and link it. Now, this is Malachi 1 and 1. Said the word, it said the burden of the word of the Lord Yahweh to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, said the Lord, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Said the Lord, yet I love Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains, or his government, and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Okay, and this was him, all right, being pushed out of power during the time of pagan Rome. Okay, this is him being sealed up for those 1,000 years. Okay, but what will happen? He will be loosed. Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. And this is going to the Renaissance period, that little season. Okay, thus said the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. You know, so as we read Malachi, we understand that this devil, okay, will be removed from power, but he will return, okay, and he will build. All right, he's already done this. This will not happen again. Okay, but now we're in a time where the Lord is going to throw down, and the Lord say the people whom He had in the nation forever. All right, and Scripture says the Lord will have war with Amalek from what generation to generation. Okay, and that's still to this day. All right, now real quick, let's get this in Job 30, and then we'll go into the history, man. Okay, just to link everything up. All right. Matter of fact, let's go into the history. Then we'll go into Job 30. All right. So first, I want to deal with this article here. Let me pull up this article, Salaki. So I found this article. I think it's from Britannica. Now this is dealing with the Khazarian Empire. Okay, because these devils, they call, because even they call Esau Caucasians because he comes from that. There was a sect of them that came from that region, and all these devils, that we see, that pretty much came into power, you know, pretty much came from, what we know as Khazars. Okay, so let me share this. All right, so when this devil, all right, was sealed for that 1,000-year period, he wasn't allowed to come into power. Now you had a sect of these devils, all right, these Edomites known as Khazars, okay, who pretty much lived, all right, uh, 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 in western Russia, okay, um, and these devils, what they would do, all right, they had, a little thing going, they had a little civilization, they was on the scene a little bit, but they wasn't able, okay, to dominate the earth, and he wasn't able to have any influence in the earth. He was pretty much, used as a vassal, between the Islam, all right, these Islamic empires, these caliphates, there's something else to study, those Islamic caliphates. And that's why, Islam has so much influence over there in their region, because you had Islamic empires that dominated in their region. All right. Then you had the Byzantine Empire, okay, um, at the same time, all right, that was under the banner of Christianity. And these Khazars was pretty much, like a buffer. They would be allied with the Byzantine Empire, and they will be going against a lot of those Islamic, you know, kingdoms in their region. All right, and then you will have some of these devils will convert to what we call uh, Judaism, in which where you get the pretty much the origin of the Ashkenazi Jew. All right, these Edomites that will eventually migrate into Europe. Okay, and the Ashkenazi Jews, and then eventually they would start to trickle into what we know as Palestine or the land of Israel today. Okay, just to sum it up. But we're gonna go, all right, just read a little bit of this history dealing with the Khazar. All right, so it says Khazar, member of a confederation of Turkic-speaking tribes that in the late 6th century, established a major commercial empire covering the southeastern section of modern European Russia. Although the origin of the term Khazar and the early history of the Khazar people are obscure, okay, and these devils know who these Khazars are, man. Okay, it's always obscure when it comes to Esau's true history. It says it's fairly certain that the Khazars were originally located in the northern Caucasus region, all right, and were part of the Western Turkic Empire, all right, in Turkestan. Now, going back to the term Caucasian, all right, with your brother, you can, if a brother can put that in the link, that word Caucasian. Your brother can put that in the comment, in the chat, you know. The word Caucasian, is a term for so-called white man. So, why are they related? Because that's, they know their origins, and this was after, all right, they was pushed out of the Roman Empire, man. Okay, this is what Job was speaking of. It said the Khazars were in contact with the Persians in the mid 6th century CE, and they aided the Byzantine emperor, all right, Heraclius, okay, and these were Jakes, reigned 610 to 641 in his campaign against the Persians. Okay, by the beginning of the 7th century, the Khazars had become independent of the Turkic Empire to the east, but by the middle of that century, the expanding empire of the Arabs had penetrated as far northward as the northern Caucasus, and from then on until the mid 8th century, the Khazars engaged in a series of wars with the Arab Empire. All right, the Arabs initially forced the Khazars to abandon, all right, the burnt, but around 685, the Khazars counterattacked, penetrating southward of the Caucasus into present-day Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. The Khazars and Arabs fought each other directly in Armenia in the 720s, and though victory passed repeatedly from one side to the other, Arab counterattacks eventually compelled the Khazars to permanently withdraw from the Caucasus. Okay, so these devils, all right, they wasn't able to dominate the earth with the sword like they did, like they're doing now. You see, he was loose. When he was turned loose, he was able to go dominate these nations with the sword. All right, but when he had this seal on him, he couldn't force himself back into power. Okay, so this fighting between Esau and Ishmael, this goes back a long way. Okay, these are old ancient rivalries that we're seeing playing out today. Okay, but it should make sense. He said he was sealed, you know. So I say he wasn't able to spread his influence or dominate these nations. He win a skirmish here and there, but he wasn't able to come into power like we see today when he was loose. All right, it says the Khazars' initial victories were important, though, since they had the effect of permanently blocking Arab expansion northward into Eastern Europe, having been compelled to shift the center of their empire northward. The Khazars, after 737, established their capital at Itil, all right, located near the mouth of the Volga River, and accepted the Caucasus Mountain as their southern border. And Nate is saying this is going to happen again. We're going to put them back in the Caucasus Mountains, okay? Which that would be super stupid, okay? Why would all this work that got to be done? Why the hell would we just let Esau just chill in the Caucasus Mountains, okay, and get weapons, okay? That's extremely stupid, man. All right, so let's this the brother GMS Shah Lakamat, Caucasians, white skin of European origin. Okay, let's say a person from the Caucasian. All right, the brother Hopeful Lake 3, Yaquab. All right, it says this brother Corner Wow, GMS prayer always Hopeful Lake. It says Caucasian of the relating to the Caucasus region or its people, languages, or culture, or relating to a group of three language families spoken in the region of the Caucasus Mountain. Okay, you see, and going back to what a white skin, we know they're not white skin. All right, they're pale, they're red. All right, blood showing through, their skin. Okay, but the political term that they put on themselves, all right, is white. But at the end of the day, we know this is speaking of Esau Edom. Yeah, this nigga's not gonna have no time to build no goddamn weapon, man. Okay? God damn. You know? So let's keep reading. Alright, it says during the same period, however, they expanded westward. By the second half of the 8th century, their empire had reached the peak of its power. It extended, all right. So by the 8th century, in the 700s, they pretty much peaked out, all right, in their power. It says extended along the northern shore of the Black Sea from the lower Volga and the Caspian Sea in the east of uh, the Dnieper River in the west. The Khazars controlled and exacted tribute from the Alani and the other northern Caucasian peoples, okay, from themselves, dwelling between the mountains and the Kuban River, from the Magyars or the modern Hungarians, inhabiting the area around the Donetsk River. All right, so you go here. All right, it said although basically Turkey, okay, which um you go to those Turkic tribes, it was mainly Ishmael. All right, but Esau was in that region, and he even took on, you know, the culture of the Turks, and that's where you get the Ottoman Turks from, which were Edomites that took down the Byzantine Empire. It's a good series on Netflix that goes into that. All right, I don't know if you brothers and sisters have seen that series Rise, watch Rise of Empires. Okay, which I'll leave a link for that as well. This is a real good series, and it goes into the history of the Ottoman empires. All right, it's on Netflix. Um, it's called Rise of the Ottoman Empire. It's a good series to watch. If you're into that. And he goes into the Byzantine Empire falling. Okay, to the Ottoman Turks, which the Ottoman Turks were Edomites. All right, because these devils, they take on whatever culture that's convenient for them. Okay, in their quest for power. All right, it says, although basically Turkic, the Khazar state bore little resemblance to the other Turkic empires of Central Eurasia, which were Ishmaelites. It was headed by a secluded supreme ruler or semi-religious character called a Kagan, who wielded little real power. Okay, and by tribal chieftains, each known as a beg. Okay, the state's military organization also seems to have lacked the forcefulness of those of the greater Turkic Mongol empires. Okay, so Esau really didn't have any real power. He was known for being warlike. Okay, but they really didn't have no real power. Amongst the other superpowers of this time. Okay, it says the Khazars seem to have been more inclined to a sedentary way of life. All right, this word sedentary. Uh, let's see. And this is all going into Job. Let's see. All right, so you go into the word sedentary. Woo, man. And it's gonna go into Job. Remember, he was sealed. Okay, so let me copy this and put this in here. It said he had a sedentary kingdom. So you go into the word sedentary. Okay, it says sedentary. It says an adjective. It says of a person tending to spend much time seated, somewhat inactive. Okay, tending to spend much time seated, somewhat inactive. He was sealed. Okay, he had a seal on him. The spirit had him inactive. Okay, he was bound. It says, characterized by much sitting and little physical exercise. And and this is what Joel was speaking of, man. This is him being bound with a seal on him, man. All right, you go into the word sedentary. Okay, would you describe the Khazars as what? The Khazars seem to have been more inclined to a sedentary way of life, building towns and fortresses, tilling the soil, and planting gardens and vineyards. Trade and the collection of tribute were major sources of income. Textile textual witnesses dating from the 9th and 10th centuries claim that the Khazars adopted Judaism in the 8th century. Okay? This is where we get the origin of what we know as small hats today. These texts are not without problems, however, and lack let me see. They're just going to something else. I'm gonna go here. It said the prominence and influence of the Khazar state were reflected in the close relations by the Byzantine Empire. Um, Justi, uh, Justinian II and Constantine V. Okay, each had a Khazar wife. So what was that? Those was Christian empires. All right, because you look at it, Esau, as the Turks, he went into Islam. All right, and you see they had ties with the Byzantine Empire, which they was Christians. So you had Edomites, that come under the banner of Christians, and then you have those that went to Judaism. All right, which is where you get the small hats from. Okay, so when this man went forth to deceive the world, it was mainly under the pretense of being a Christian. When he was let out during the Renaissance. Okay, that's why you have Renaissance Christianity, man. That has a completely different narrative from, all right, the followers of Yahushua. Okay, and then he was able to wiggle himself in our land under the guise of what? Being, all right, us, man, being the chosen people. Okay, what we know is small hats today. You see, and these things should make more and more sense. Okay, all right. So let's keep reading. And it says, the main source of revenue for the empire stemmed from commerce, and particularly from Khazar control of the eastward trade route that linked Far East with the Byzantine. Okay, now all right, I'm gonna go here. It says, but by the 10th century, the empire, faced with the growing might of the Pechenegs to the north and west of the Russians around Kiev, suffered a decline when uh, Sviatoslav, the ruler of Kiev, launched a campaign against the Khazars in 965. Khazar power was crushed. Okay, although the Khazars continue to be mentioned in historical documents as late as the 12th century, by 1030 their political role in the lands north of the Black Sea had greatly diminished. A seal was on him; he was bound. Okay, he was bound, and when they was diminished, this is where you see these devils start to integrate, as being Christians. All right, and Judaism. Under those two banners of Christianity, these Khazars, you know, uh, 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 under these two banners of Judaism and Christianity, these Khazars, they wiggled up the ranks. Okay, to eventually they was the monarchs of Europe. Okay, the Byzantine Empire fell as the Turks. Okay, and then what we're going to see is pretty much the small hats. They pull one over, on them on the Turks. You know, and we're gonna get into that, man. So I just want to run that little history down the Khazars. Then I got a video I want to play dealing with that as well. Let's play the beginning of the first, 5-6 minutes. Then we'll get into some scriptures, you know. And I pray, these things are making sense. Okay, you have to understand these things, man. So let me share this. All right. So this is gonna be pretty much a visual, the things we was reading, So I'm gonna play. I say about 5 6 minutes of it, and then we'll get to that in Job 30.
After the disintegration of the Gokturk empires, the Uyghurs and, to a certain extent, the Kyrgyz created new successor states in Mongolia and the Altai region. However, even more Turkic states were established in the west and stretched along the entire Eurasian steppe belt. Among them was the Khazar Khaganate, ruled by a branch of the Western Turkic Empire of the 7th century. As such, the Khazars were most likely led by members of the legendary Ashina clan of Bumin and Istemi. Within a century, they expanded their territory as far as Kiev in the west, the Volga in the north, and the Kazakh steppe in the east. And while the Khazars seemingly remained a nomadic people, their society transformed as the ruling Khazars converted from Tengrism to Christianity, and later on even to Judaism. But was the Khazar Empire in general thus a Jewish empire too? Did the common people also become Jewish? And how credible is the claim of the Jews of Eastern Europe being descendants from the Khazars? Before we find out, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and click on the notification bell so that you won't miss any updates. Without further ado, let's dive into the fascinating topic of the Khazar Khaganate.
They became Khazars, rulers. Ohne sie findet man keine wahre Freiheit.
Out of all the successor states of the Gokturks, the Khazar Empire was the one located most westward, on the frontier between Europe and Asia. Centered between the Volga River and the Caucasus, their history can be traced back to the middle of the 7th century. And yet, the creation of Khazar identity is strongly linked to the downfall of the first Gokturk state. The Gokturks had advanced as far as Ukraine in the year 580 CE, and with the help of the also Turkic Oghur Federation, even besieged Cherson on the Crimean Peninsula, Byzantine territory. Over time, the Byzantines and Turks forged an alliance against their common enemy, the Sassanid Persian Empire. In 627, hostilities between Byzantines and Persians culminated, and the Turks intervened into the conflict. The king of the Western Gokturks, Tong Yabgu, besieged several cities in Georgia and Armenia, and sent his general Boris Shad to attack the Persians through Azerbaijan. However, Tong was murdered, and all Turkic armies retreated back to Central Asia amidst political chaos. By 630, the Eastern Gokturk Empire fell into Chinese hands, and the Western Empire was also crumbling due to internal conflict between pro-Ashina and anti-Ashina tribes. Tong Yabgu seemingly had plans to annex the newly conquered territories on the Caucasus. But after his death, the Turkic peoples did not fully retreat from the region. Indeed, his war against Persia laid the foundation of the Khazar state. By 650, as political anarchy reigned supreme in the east, the Turks in the west reorganized themselves. Slowly but steadily, a new Turkic state was formed. In several medieval sources, the Gokturk armies are being called Khazars. However, the use of this term for the war between 627 and 629 CE is purely anachronistic. As the Khazars had become well known as nomadic Turkic rulers of the Caucasus in the 8th century, Medieval authors and scholars of that time thought of the Khazars and the Gokturks as congruent. From a certain point of view, they were right. But the Khazars had surely not been independent prior to the year 630 CE, before the retreat of the Gokturks from the area. After conquering the lower Volga region to the east and an area between the Danube and the Dnieper to the west, and subduing the Oghur Union, a properly constituted Khazar Khaganate emerged between 650 and 670 CE. It was at this time, interestingly, that the Bulgars, also of Turkic origins, approached Europe under leadership of Kubrat Khan and founded the First Bulgar Empire. But more about them in another video. Being surrounded by several nomadic peoples such as the Bulgars, Magyars, Oghur, and Oghuz, the Khazars were in a peculiar geopolitical situation. But their military prowess and able leadership helped them establish Khazar hegemony in the neighborhood. For the next 300 years, the Khazars would reign as the supreme empire of Eurasia. But with this new location and new neighbors, including many of non-Turkic origin, the society of the Khazars entered a transformation phase with no return.
I have come home and I have stood at the base of the steps just dreading the 40 stairs that I have to climb up. And there's 40 because I've counted them.
Contrary to popular belief, the Khazar state was less centralized than the Gokturk Empire. The Khazar political system was characterized by its dual monarchy, with two main figures ruling the Khazar state, the Khagan and the Bek, the latter also known as Kagan Bek. While the actual Kagan held a ceremonial position and was not involved in day-to-day governance or military decisions, the active ruler was the Bek, who managed state affairs, military strategy, and diplomatic relations. This structure was probably developed to balance power among the factions in the Khazar state. The Khagan, or supreme ruler, was the head of the empire, but his power was limited by the presence of the Bek. This was the title of a tribal leader before the Gokturk era. With the disappearance of the Gokturk empires, the lesser nobility, with the Beks as their spokesman, worked to improve their power within the hierarchy of the steppe belt. The Khazar dual kingship of Khagan be allowed for a certain degree of autonomy of the different regions within the empire, while still maintaining a sense of unity and shared identity. However, like the Gokturk Empire and many other states in the Eurasian steppe belt, the Khazar state was originally organized along tribal lines. The empire was divided into tribes or clans, each with its own chieftain. These tribes could be quite powerful and influential within the state, especially if they had a large population or were particularly wealthy or militarily strong. Over time, centralization efforts helped to consolidate political power. As an active ruler, the Bek increasingly took on the characteristics of a conventional monarch, and tribal structures became less important. This was likely due to the influence of the settled, urbanized societies with which the Khazars interacted, including the Byzantine Empire, the Islamic caliphates, and the various Slavic and Germanic kingdoms of Eastern Europe. The Khazars valued military prowess and were constantly engaged in warfare with neighboring peoples. Therefore, while the Khazars seemingly remained a nomadic people, their society transformed.
So yeah, who did that sound like? You know, but as I said, they were engaged with other civilized empires. Well, they wasn't that civilized. But between the Islamic, and the Christian Byzantine Empire, that's pretty much when the Khazars were, diminished. They started to wiggle their way, different empires, man, and eventually they would come back into power, okay, when that seal was loose. So now, all right, let's go from there. So let's go back to Revelation 20, okay, and then we'll go into, let's see. Go into Job. Well, let's get Revelation 20, and now we see that prophecy has happened. Okay, and it's not going to be on repeat. It's Revelation 20 and 2. All right, so, well, I started 1. It says, "Now I saw an angel come down from heaven, Yahweh Shai, having the key to the bottomless pit." Okay, which there was the region, Europe. Okay, mainly the Caucasus Mountain. And then they will eventually, trickle into Europe. You know, under those religious banners. You know, as the so-called JOs. All right, was you let's say the Ashkenazis. You see, then you have the Christians. You know, you have eventually the Edomites will be under these Christian monarchs. Okay, and then all right, you had the Turks, the Ottoman Turks, which was Islamic. Okay, but this devil was pushed out and removed, from power. It says, and he laid hold on the dragon. All right, and this is Edom, Rome. Okay, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 8,000 years. So let's get this word bound. All right, and this is why he was not able to wield any power, real power in the earth. Okay, use the word bound in the Greek.
Strong's G 1210. Deo. Deo.
All right, it says to bind, to tie, to fasten. Okay, to fasten with chains, to throw in the chains. Okay, and it was like it was a chain, like he was limited in what he can do. He put a chain, you gotta put a leash or a chain on a dog, well, the dog only has so far it can go. When it reaches chain end, it can do nothing else. And Esau was in that position for 1,000 years, as if he was chained up as a nation. All right, from coming into to real power. Okay, let's go here. Let's get this word seal. All right, when you go to Revelation 23, it says, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nation no more till the 1,000 years be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. Okay, so when you go here to seal, all right, look at the word shut. Just going through some words, it's shut in the Greek.
Strong's G 2808. Clio. Clio.
All right, to shut up, to close. All right. Yeah, man. So he was closed up. It was too much. All right, but he was closed off. From really becoming a superpower on the earth. Even though he had military particular things. All right. His ass was just a goddamn a rogue, a thug caveman. That's what he looked like. That's pretty much what he was. All right. This word seal. Said a seal. All right. All right. So you go to the word seal in the Greek.
Strong's G 4972. Sfragidzo. Sfragidzo.
All right. To set a seal upon, to mark with a seal, to seal. And see, remember, the Most High is what? The king. And when the king will put his seal on something, nobody could take that seal off except that king. Okay? Only authorized people could take off their seal, in which ultimately Yahweh Shai, he was given that authority to take that seal off. All right? The Lord was allowed to seal the devil up. All right? And he was the one that took the seal off. And that's not all right, going to happen again in the kingdom, man. This whole process is not going to happen again in the kingdom. Okay, there's a madhouse, crazy man doctrine, man. Okay, so let's go here to Job. All right, let's go to Job 30. All right, this is the book of Job 30 and 1. It says, "But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose fathers I would have disdain to have set with the dogs of my flock." Okay, and he that is younger than I, speaking of Esau, Edom, and younger, all right, goes into basically his insignificance, man. Okay, Esau, he's of a lesser rank because they were the chosen people. Okay, so I wanted to, might be all right, and like it look like Yahweh Ma. Let's see, that ain't it. All right, so you get this Hebrew word, man, manah, which is younger. Okay. All right, so when you really go into it, I think you used to have another definition. You used to actually say the word insignificant. Let me see if it's a root. I ain't looked it up in a while. No, that ain't it. Yep. But ultimately, it's speaking of, a rank, or insignificant. All right, which is Esau, Edom. Okay. It said, "Year war two might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in the former time, desolate and waste." And seeing these devils, even amongst the Khazars, you had, little things going on, but a lot of these devils, it was just desolate, man. Okay. And a lot of these devils just out there, man, in a very low condition, man. All right, hygiene was terrible. Okay, these devils had fell off from their pagan Roman, the glory of their pagan Roman Empire, you know, to the status of a caveman, and a vassal, military state, a buffer state at best, you know, and even that got bust up. All right, it says, "Who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief." Yeah, this man, he was pushed out. Okay, and the nation didn't look at this man, all right, as being, okay, the standard, the standard of the earth. Okay, there was a time when he was looked at as a low life. Okay, and they will use them, different, those different Khazar military. They will use them, for proxies, pretty much. The way that Esau used, these other nations for proxies. Okay, that's how nations was doing him. You know, but they didn't, they didn't look at Esau. He didn't have a seat at the table. Okay, he said, "To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys and caves of the earth and in the rocks, among the bushes they braid." Okay, so you had certain devils couldn't even talk, man. Esau was low. It said, "Under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools." Yeah, children of base men that were viler than the earth, man. And we know Esau was into all type of vileness. He's into all type of vile things, man. Okay, he's been into, the pedo and sacrifice and the candle. He's been into those things, man. Okay, It says, and now I am their song, yeah. I am their byword. And this happened during the Renaissance when he, that seal was taken off of him. He was loose for a little season. And that's one of the first thing he did was do what, man? Okay, gathered us into captivity. Okay, that's him being loose, man. It's a Renaissance, man. And I have this video that I did 4 months ago. All right, and it goes into Satan shall be loose from his prison. All right, fall of Granada and the conquistadors. Okay, so I got that video. Let's see here. All right, so this 1,000-year period, okay, that you read about in Revelation chapter 21-3 is the dark ages, what they call the dark ages. Okay, and him being loose is the Renaissance. Okay, that's their history. The other 1,000-year period, which we'll get into another video. All right, that's the establishing of our eternal kingdom. All right, so we just covering, the first 1,000-year period at the beginning of the chapter. Verses 1-3. Then it jumped down, to the Renaissance. Him being loose. Okay, which we're gonna get get into all that. All right, but oh yeah, the video here. Yeah. So this video I did 4 months ago. We went into these things, and I plan on re-uploading them, tonight. Re-uploading this video tonight, and it goes into him being loosed. All right, and history, with the conquistadors and the fall of Granada. Okay, so put that there. Okay, so you rewatch that. I might have to rewatch it myself, but I think it was another one dealing with the Ottoman Turks. Yeah, brothers, they've been watching it. Let me see. Yeah, I think I did two. One with the Ottoman Turks, and one, I believe, I had to find the other one. Yeah, I had to go find it, but I'll put that one up tonight, Lord will. So we can have something to reference. But yeah, so I got one more video. Now, we went into these devils, okay, being pushed out of power. All right, and then eventually they will be loosed. Okay, but while they was pushed out of the power, they was influenced by, let's say, the Christians, the Islamic Turks, okay, and Judaism. Okay, now when you go into matter of fact, let me read this out this book. All right, so this is their book. Facts are facts, and I don't think it cost that much. Got off Amazon a couple years back. I want to read a few. I think this is page. All right. So this is page 23. Okay. Now it says the European small hats who form 92% of the world's population of those people who call themselves JOOs were originally Khazars. They were a warlike tribe who lived deep in the heart of Asia, and they were so warlike that even the Asiatics drove them out of Asia into Eastern Europe. You see, Job 30, they were driven away from men as a thief. They set up a large Khazar kingdom of 800,000 square miles at the time. Russia did not exist, nor did many other European countries. The Khazar kingdom was the biggest country in all Europe, so big and so powerful that when other monarchs wanted to go to war, Khazars would lend 40,000 soldiers. That's how big and powerful they were. They were phallic worshippers, okay, which is what you get the obelisk, pretty much the worship, okay, of the erect rod, okay. This is where you get Nimrod, the worship, the Christmas tree. Supposedly, Nimrod's, his rod growing out the ground. Um, um, you look at all the different monuments, Washington Monument is nothing but big phalanx. All right. Um, the skyscrapers, all these skyscrapers, and all these buildings, they're nothing but phalanx. Okay. What you call architecture? Okay. That's why. Let me see. So Esau, and that's why I say he was valor than the earth. He was into all this lewdness, and because it came with all different practices. The worship, if you worship, the male sex organ, all right, which this society is big on that. Okay. Let me see. All right, so you go here. Let me share this real quick. When you go here to what they call phalanx architecture. Okay. So you see that? Now this is all modern architecture. All right. So that's how it's the spirit in these people bear witness who they are, man. Okay. As it says in what's that, Job 21. But yeah, they was noted, the Khazars was noted for worshiping the phalanx, okay, or what you call the obelisk, which is, even you go to the Greek god Pan, it's pretty much just horny, god that just walked around with an erection all day, okay. And this is the society that Esau pushes, over sexualized, okay. Let's get that in Job. But these people actions and show who they are, and I say this comes from Ham. All right, these Hamitic tribes that was into that phalanx worship, obelisk, So let's let's see. And this all the devil is about. This how he builds. Look at this, man. Okay. Is it, and the Khazars were stated, okay, to be phalanx worshippers, man. All right. These buildings we see. All right. So, yep, that's that. But going back to the book Facts of Facts, it says they were phallic um phallus worshippers, which is filthy, and I do not want to go into details of that now, but that was their religion, as it was also the religions of many other pagans and barbarians elsewhere in the world. The Khazar king became so disgusted with the degeneracy of his kingdom. You see, he became, he said the Khazar king became so disgusted with the degeneracy of his kingdom that he decided to adopt so-called monotheistic faith, either Christianity, Islam, or what is known today as Judaism, which is really Talmudism. By spinning a top and calling it out any, many, miny, mo, he picked out so-called Judaism, and that became the state religion. He sent down to the Talmudic, all right, because those small hats, what is their uh uh, uh you know their basis? Okay, they base their teachings out of the Talmud. Okay, but this goes back to the Khazars when they decided, to make Judaism the state religion. He went and got Talmudic schools of Pumbita, and Sarah, and bought up thousands of rabbis and opened up synagogues and schools, and his people became what we call the JOOs. Okay, you see that? And you read it on. Let me jump to another spot. All right, it says, so the Khazars became what we call today the JOOs. All right. Um. Now imagine how silly it was for the great Christian countries of the world to say we're going to use our power and prestige to repatriate God's chosen people to their ancestral homeland, the promised land. Could there be a bigger lie than that? Because they could control the newspapers, the magazines, the radio, the television, the book publishing businesses, and because they have the ministers in the pulpit and the politicians on the soapboxes talking the same language, it is not surprising that you believe that lie. You'll believe black is white if you heard it often enough. You wouldn't call black anymore. You'll start to call black white, and nobody will blame you. This is one of the great lies of history. It is the foundation of all the misery that has befallen the world. Okay? Now, let's get into some more precepts. Now, Revelation 20 should make sense when you understand the history. Okay? It's not something that's going to come in the kingdom. That's extremely off, man. All right? And there's confusion as hell. Okay? Now, when you jump down to Revelation 27, it says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Okay? And this is Esau Edom coming in the spirit of who? Satan, the adversary. Okay? And what will he do? And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. And the major deceptions he used was Christianity, okay, and him coming on in the banner as the JOOs, okay, which you have people that still believe that they are the people to this day. And who believe that the most? Christians. Okay, so this man will come back, okay, from being pushed out. All right, he will emerge from the Caucasus Mountains, okay, under the banner of Christianity and Judaism, and deceive the world. Okay, Gog and Magog to gather them together to battle the number of whom as the sand of the sea. And this is happening now. Gog and Magog, which is Russia, okay, are being gathered for a battle that's going to end this man's rulership. Okay, well, like I said, this is a whole nother lesson we're gonna have to get into, man. Okay, but this is him going forth in the four quarters of earth. He has done that. Okay, he's not gonna have the resources or the time to go to the four quarters of the earth in the kingdom to deceive and the other nations to rebel, man. Come on, man. God damn, man. And ain't nobody gonna say nothing. Ain't nobody IUIC gonna say nothing. Ain't gonna pull him to the side and say, God damn, Nate. You know, I don't mean to be out of line, Bishop, but shit. You know? All right. So now I want to go here. I want to play this. As the brother put. All right, it's brother Bayan Yasha'Allah, Hebrew 12 and 16, that not one is sexually immoral or unholy like Esau, who sold his birthright for a single meal. And that's that guy. You know? And he's back in the earth, and with his rulership, all right, what has he pushed in the earth? The worship of lewdness, you know? But the Khazarian Empire was known for its degeneracy. Okay? It was known for degeneracy, man. Okay? So let's get this one. So what I'm gonna play now is going into how, you know, the small has gotten to the land, you know, and things that was happening in World War One. Now we're just gonna go into the first few minutes, you know, maybe 10 minutes, maybe, um, just to hit the point. But I'm gonna put the link. Now this is a good watch, you know. I'll say if you're interested into these things, you know. Let's see, copy, paste. It's a good documentary, about 52 minutes, you know, but it just goes into the details of how the British, you know, Empire, you know, when you go in the British, there's, you know, that's the banking, okay, the financing behind, all right, this beast system, all right, the elite bankers, you know, the Rothschilds, you know, the banking cartel, all right, and they, you know, pretty much, you know, what do you call it, Zionists, um, the Zionist movement, all right, have established, you know, a European colony of Edomites under the banner of being JOOs, all right, which we know as small hats. All right, so we went into the Khazarian Empire. Okay, we went into the different alliances that they had. So, what you had, the Turks, and remember the Turks as the Ottoman Empire, they became a dominant empire when the Byzantine Empire fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1452. All right, the Ottoman Turks, you know, pretty much became the dominant empire um, amongst these Edomites. But eventually, you know, they would start to dwindle in power, you know, and you had, you know, these European nations, you know, under the banner of Christianity, you know, but then amongst um, those European uh, countries, you had what you call the Ashkenazi Jews, which, all right, were nothing but Edomites, going under the banner of Judaism. They're all Edomites. And you're going to see, these European power pretty much, they're going to swindle, all right, Palestine from under, the Ottoman Turks. Okay. And they did it in a very crafty way. So this going to go into it, it should explain itself. So I'm going to let it play, try to jump in less as possible, unless need be. But I'm going to let this one play. Let me share it.
The bitter struggle between Arab and Jew for control of the Holy Land has caused untold suffering in the Middle East for generations. It is often claimed that the crisis originated with Jewish emigration to Palestine and the foundation of the State of Israel. Yet the roots of the conflict are to be found much earlier, in British double-dealing during the First World War. This is a story of intrigue among rival empires, of misguided strategies, and of how conflicting promises to Arab and Jew created a legacy of bloodshed which has determined the fate of the Middle East.
During the First World War, the British, the French, and the Russians had these secret plans to carve up the Ottoman Empire because they believed that would balance out their imperial ambitions, but tough luck for the Turks, the Arabs, and anyone else who got in the way.
Certainly, all the seeds were planted then, in the sense that it was the British who promised the Arabs independence on the one hand, and a Jewish homeland on the other. And you could not simply reconcile one with the other.
The British scattered promises to anyone who might be of some use to them without thinking about the consequences. So British duplicity, British double-dealing went a long way to perpetuate the conflict in Palestine.
At the end of the day, when you're fighting a war, you are very liberal in what you're offering in terms of a post-war settlement. When you get down to the conference table when the war has ended and you have to start honoring your agreements, you then have to decide what's in your interest or not. And the British saw the Middle East as a Western flank for their power in India and their power in Asia in general.
The story of Britain's involvement in the Middle East and the ensuing struggle between Arab and Jew begins with her colonial past. At the beginning of the 20th century, King Edward VII ruled over a vast empire with interests in every part of the world.
India became increasingly important because it was the second pillar of British power in the world. Moving the Indian army about was extremely important in extending British interests and British influence across the globe. And the Suez Canal was, of course, the quick way to do that. It's very important for the British geopolitical position to ensure the Suez Canal remains safe and secure.
With this aim in mind, Britain had become the only European power to establish a major foothold in the Middle East, in the principalities around the Persian Gulf, in Aden, and in Egypt. Britain had annexed Egypt from Turkey's Ottoman Empire in 1882. And by the time it was made a protectorate in 1914, Cairo had become the center of British power in the Middle East. The presence of imperial troops in the region was of vital strategic importance. For the Ottoman Empire under Sultan Muhammad V, was an alliance with Britain's much-feared rival, Germany. Together with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, these countries made up the Central Powers, and pitted against them were the three allies, Britain, France, and Russia.
Are you a STEM professional and are looking to apply for U.S. permanent residency? Then stay tuned.
From the Ottoman capital, Constantinople in Turkey, the Sultan ruled over the last of the great Islamic empires. It had been in almost terminal decline for decades. Yet the fate of the Ottoman Empire was to be sealed by the outbreak of the First World War in August 1914. In Europe, Germany's rapid advance was halted by Britain and France along the Western Front. In the east, Russia's war against Germany and Austria-Hungary also reached deadlock. The powerful weapons of the industrial age were killing thousands of men in the trenches of every army.
All of the leading powers expected the war to be over within a matter of months. So in that sense, all of them are surprised at the end of 1914, when not merely is the war going on, but it shows every sign of being likely to go on for a very long time. At that point, they began to think about new ways of winning the war.
Britain's Prime Minister Asquith felt that with the stalemate in Europe, it was essential to widen the conflict. Together with Foreign Secretary Lord Grey, Minister for War Lord Kitchener, and the First Lord of the Admiralty Winston Churchill, they masterminded a complex strategy to undermine the Central Powers.
This was a global war, and the British saw the Middle East very much in a global context. The traditional British preference for sideshows, as people unfavorably call it, the indirect strategy, the way of attacking the soft underbelly, as Churchill called it, of the enemy. And the soft underbelly was seen to be Turkey.
Britain's secret plan involved, on the one hand, a military diversion, and on the other, a devious use of diplomacy through bribery, subversion, and double-dealing. All these devices focused on the enemy's weakest link, Turkey's Ottoman Empire.
Diplomacy in general has always had a secret dimension to it, but where discretion ends and conspiracy begins is an open question. But during the period up to and during the First World War, there was a particularly intense set of negotiations and discussions
Okay. Boy, yeah. So yeah, I figured he probably was gonna do that. I caught myself watching. But at the end of the day, just to kind of sum up what they was going to go into. So what you had the British government pretty much. All right, you had the Ottoman Empire. Now you had Ishmaelites in the land of Palestine, but they was subjects of the Ottoman Empire. All right, Palestine was a province of the Ottoman Empire. Palestine, the land that they're fighting over today, our land, Israel. But you had those Ishmaelites in the land, all right, what they call Palestinians, and the British government pretty much got with those Ishmaelite Islamic leaders, for them, to go against the Ottoman Turks, and they promised them independence, you know, and they told, the European, okay, the Ashkenazi J double O's that, they will give them independence as well. That's where you get the term double dealing. So they promised, both parties, pretty much the land. But when the war was won, all right, they awarded their land to those small hats, okay? And that's where you get this tension between those small hats and those Palestinians today, because the British pretty much promised, to give those Ishmaelites, those Islamic, all right, those Muslim Ishmaelites under the Turks. Like, they're like, look, when we beat the Turks, y'all gonna have y'all independence. Y'all can be an independent state. So forth and so on. But they didn't do it. All right, they gave the land to those. They started giving their land out to those small hats, and you have, what you have today. But that's pretty much, how they, from Khazars to small hats. That's where we at with it. All right, but this is the devil being loose, for a little season. Okay, and we come to a time, all right, where he's about to be thrown down, as the scripture say in Malachi. All right, but that's pretty much the point. That's good. I think the elder Joshua woman just went live, so hey, you tune in. Hey, Nate got everybody working, man. So it's a spirit. It's a good grief. So I'm on video one. Lord will. It'll be more to come. More edification. This is the time to get edification. And say this before we close out. Either you're going to be extremely confused, in the time of chaos, the time we're coming into, or you're going to be built and rooted, in true doctrine. So Lord will, we keep getting rooted, in true sound doctrine. All right. So till next time, I say Shalom. Kwam Yashala, Bible, DTA soon. Shalom.